As I record this, it is about 24 hours after the Tony Awards, and I am mostly pleased with how this season turned out, because the majority of it, I think, signaled a greater understanding of representation and the creation of new progressive works and diversity and inclusion. And then there was Tootsie. I know, it says La Femme. I promise this has a point. See, here's the thing. Tootsie, based on the eponymous musical, is, blatantly transphobic and transmisogynistic. Because the entire premise hinges around the idea of a man disguising himself as a woman, not because it correlates to his gender identity in any way, but because it's easier for him to get a job that way. And that is wrong on so many levels, and yet Tootsie walked away not only with Best Book, but Best Actor, which is probably the most galling thing about all of this, in a year when we had the first openly transgender actor originating a role on Broadway. I saw Peppermint in Head Over Heels, she was magnificent. Love you! The fact that Tootsie was even nominated, let alone that it won, is a serious indication of the fact that Broadway, like, well, the rest of the entertainment industry, has not yet caught up to its supposedly progressive pedigree. I mean, you can preach tolerance all you want, but at the end of the day, if you are making and rewarding a musical where the premise is a man in a dress is funny somehow, that is bad. It's bad. Especially when you consider that this is Pride Month. Like, the Tonys were basically Pride Month themed. And yet, not only did they do this, but they did this at a time when trans women are being murdered. They are still being murdered. There has never really not been a time when trans women have not been murdered. And that brings us nicely into our reading material. Fierce Femmes and Notorious Liars, a dangerous trans girl's confabulous memoir, hereafter referred to as Fierce Femmes because, as you can tell, that is a mouthful. This is written by Cheng Thom, and it's one of my favorite books that I have read in a long time. Like, remember how I was super excited for Vox and then it just depressed me and frustrated me? This is the opposite of that. I was assigned Fierce Femmes for a class I was taking, Feminist Theory and Methodology, and we were using it to discuss the methodologies of fiction. And the thing was, for most of reading this, I didn't realize it was fiction because it is just that accessible, it is that relatable and funny. But yeah, it is fiction. There are mermaids and magical elements, and yeah, it's fiction, but it is so grounded in truth that you cannot help but relate to it. I'm just going to read the first two paragraphs to give you an idea of how amazing this is to me. I will try to do it justice. I don't believe in safe spaces. They don't exist. I do, however, believe in dangerous stories. The kind that swirl up from inside you when you least expect it, like the voice of a mad angel whispering of the revolution you are about to unleash. Stories that bend and twist the air as they crackle off your tongue, making you shimmer with glamour so that everyone around you hangs on to your every intoxicating word. The kind of stories that quiet, mad girls dream of to bring themselves comfort after crying themselves to sleep at night, that make your poor, starving grandfather cross an entire ocean in search of the unbelievable riches someone once told him were waiting on the other side. The kind of story that doesn't wait for you to invite it to enter, but bursts through the doors of your rat-infested house like a glittering wind, hungry to snatch up the carpet and scatter your papers and smash every single plate in the kitchen. That surges, howling, up the battered stairs to blast the stained sheets off your filthy bed and sweep your secrets out of the closet and send them shrieking outside, overjoyed to finally be set free. Where are those kinds of stories about trans girls like you and me? I fully realize that it loses some of its punch coming from a cis woman, but that is some powerful prose. And the language, this deserves to be an audiobook, this deserves to be a movie, in that it deserves to be depicted on the big screen to normalize and make this experience relatable in a different medium. It does not deserve to be a movie that has cisgender actors playing transgender roles. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Jared Leto, and Eddie Redmayne, and Felicity Huffman, and Jeffrey Tambor, and Santino Fontana, and every other person who has shoved themselves into clothing that is considered to be for the other gender and put on some fake prosthetics and been like, oh, I'm playing a trans role and it's so deep and I've done all this research. Yeah, you didn't do enough research to decide that maybe this was a bad idea. Yeah, my local pride parade doesn't come for a while, and I'm itching to espouse some rhetoric. Look, I even made a shirt! I realized the irony of a cisgender white woman talking about transgender women of color, but I feel that this is sort of an obligation I have. I have been blessed with privilege, and therefore I have an obligation to use it to elevate other voices. And I can't necessarily always, get someone to come and shoot in my bedroom with me, but I can find media by these artists. I can elevate it to my platform and use my privilege to say, read this, think critically about it, think critically about your own feminism. And that is a lot of what I have been learning to do for the last year. In addition to my grad school major, as we'll call it, I'm pursuing a graduate certificate in feminist studies. So I've been learning about feminist literary criticism, feminist theory and methodology, all in the intent of learning to be a better feminist critic for this channel. And I absolutely acknowledge that there are gaps in my own pursuit of making this happen. I mean, I definitely should not have complimented Twilight as much as I did when I was drunk. I don't think I complimented it a lot, but I was not critical enough of it, I think. In hindsight, I have had some time to reflect on it, and I don't know, maybe I'll revisit it on Halloween. Patreon is down there if you want that. And I also definitely will be making an effort to consume more content moving forward with queer protagonists and protagonists of color, and I will try to check my privilege when I review them, but part of the reason that I tend to review media that is centered on cisgender white women of privilege is because I feel that that is the best place for me to address it, looking to my own wounds, so to speak. I want to go back to coalition politics again. This is I suppose it's kind of a crutch I lean on. I've used Kathy Cohen so many times that she's like my go-to source. And if I owe a debt to Kathy Cohen, then I also owe a debt to Kimberly Crenshaw, who came up with the theory of intersectionality that Cohen is using to articulate her points in Punks, Bulldaggers, and Welfare Queens. But it's really coalition politics that fascinates me, because the feminist movement, just like the queer pride movement, has become a victim of coalition politics. We think that when the broad majority gets the first step, so okay, we get gay marriage, but that doesn't mean that everything's fine. As I mentioned, there are still trans women being murdered, there are still people who are subjected to conversion therapy or corrective rape, or just, blatant homophobia and Nazis at a pride parade. I focus on the media that I do because, well, it's what gets disseminated amongst the masses the most and therefore has the widest net to cast, and therefore more people will know what I'm talking about. But I am always open to reviewing content that is lesser known if it means that people of color, people who are queer, people who are disenfranchised will get a voice. I will gladly lift my voice to give attention to your work. So what exactly is Fierce Femmes? Well, it's the story of our nameless narrator, an Asian trans woman who left behind her life in the city called Gloom to transition and join a group of trans women who become her new sisters, and they also form a vigilante group called the Lipstick Lacerators when they realize that some of their sisters are being murdered via police brutality. Yeah, if you want to piss off swerfs and turfs, this is the book to do it with. It is so freaking good. So this book is, I think, the best reading you could do for Pride Month because it is so grounded in the traditions that started Pride. Pride was founded by queer women and queer people of color and queer trans folk, all of whom united against not just general bigotry, but around brutality, around resisting this assassination of them. And it is assassination every time a trans woman is murdered because they are being targeted as part of a political, orchestrated attempt to eliminate that which is seen as an aberration. And Pride has been so co-opted by cisgender, white, gay men and people who desperately want to pretend that the A stands for ally instead of asexual, and pedophiles, and so many gross things that just makes books like these all the more important. It makes stories like these all the more important. And I think that the best part about this book is the fact that it fully acknowledges the role that coalition politics plays in white liberalism. One big part of the narrator's journey is dating a white trans man who comes from an incredibly privileged white academic setting, and they move in together, and she does not feel at all comfortable in her boyfriend's space because it is such a space of privilege. And so she leaves because she knows she does not belong there because she has been positioned to believe that. And it's heartbreaking, but it's also like a big old middle finger that I freaking love. And the opening, this was written in 2018, and I'm pretty sure the opening is a direct dig at Caitlyn Jenner. Not the passage that I read for you, but it goes on to sass a white trans woman in a gown on TV talking about transitioning and how it gets better, and I can read between the lines. I'm in grad school. I hope I have that much brain power. But yeah, this book, it's absolutely promises everything, every single adjective that I read in that opening. It shimmers, it glitters, it is full of glamour and heartbreak and danger, and it is just one of my favorite books probably in my lifetime. And I am so grateful that I took the class that introduced me to it, and I am so grateful to Cheng Thom who wrote it. So absolutely go out and buy this book. It is worth the money you will spend on it. So go read it. Like, seriously, I don't know how else to say it. Go read it. You'll love it. So moving forward, read books like these, seek out work by the disenfranchised, and be kind to one another. Be fabulous to each other, because the world could use a little more of that.
Merci beaucoup for watching. Please be sure to like, leave comments, share, and subscribe. I would love to make these videos more often, but to do that, I need your help fending off the YouTube algorithm.
So if you're interested in picking the next book I read or the next movie I review, or you just want early access to my videos or cameo privileges, please join my Patreon where the link is in the description. And I've also included the link to where you can buy my Irreplaceable shirt if you happen to have a discerning ace with taste in your life who might like this shirt. Alright, thank you very much, and I will see you soon. Mwah. À bientôt!